The letter slipped from my fingers, fluttering to the pavement like a dying leaf. Ethan was gonna be Ethan. The boy who'd lit up my world with his crooked smile and larger-than-life dreams. Now a rising star in Hollywood. Untouchable. I stood frozen on the cracked sidewalk of our small Ohio town. The weight of his words crushing me. I can't do this anymore. Caleb. I'm sorry. The autumn air bit at my skin, but the real chill was inside, spreading through my chest like frost. I'd spent years loving Ethan Carter, the boy who'd always been too big for this place, too big for me. His ambition had carried him from our high school drama club to red carpets, and I'd been fool enough to think our love could survive the distance. I sank onto the bench outside the old diner, the one where we'd shared milkshakes and whispered dreams under neon lights. The world blurred as tears stung my eyes. How do you mourn someone who's still alive but chose to leave you behind? Ethan's face flashed in my mind, those piercing blue eyes. That laugh that could melt anyone. He'd promised forever. But forever ended with a single-page letter. Postmarked Los Angeles. A soft voice broke through my haze. Caleb. You okay? I looked up to see Noah, my childhood friend, standing there with his worn flannel and messy brown hair, his hazel eyes soft with concern. Noah, who'd always been there, quiet and steady, like the oak tree in my backyard that never swayed, no matter the storm. He didn't wait for an answer, just sat beside me, close enough that I could feel the warmth of his presence. He's gone. Noah. I choked out, my voice raw. Ethan left me. The words felt like glass in my throat. Noah didn't say anything at first, just picked up the letter from the ground and folded it gently, as if it were something precious instead of the thing that broke me. He tucked it into his pocket, his movements careful, deliberate. I'm here, he said simply, his voice low but firm. It wasn't a promise of grand gestures or sweeping romance, just truth, plain and unadorned. And in that moment, with the world crumbling around me, it was enough. The days that followed were a fog. I went through the motions: work at the local bookstore, dinners with my parents, the same small-town routine I'd always known. But Ethan's absence was a hole I couldn't fill. I'd scroll through his Instagram late at night, torturing myself with photos of him at premieres, his arm around some new face, his smile as dazzling as ever. Each post was a reminder that he'd moved on while I was stuck here, drowning in memories. Noah noticed. Of course he did. He'd always seen me, even when I was too caught up in Ethan to notice him back. One evening, he showed up at my apartment with a pizza and a six-pack of root beer, his lopsided grin disarming me. No brooding tonight, he declared, plopping onto my couch. We're watching the Goonies. You can't be sad during the Goonies. I wanted to argue, to wallow. But Noah had this way of making the world feel lighter. We watched the movie, laughing at Chunk's antics. And for a few hours, I forgot the ache in my chest. Noah's presence was like a warm blanket, familiar and safe. He didn't push me to talk about Ethan, but when I did, he listened, his eyes never leaving mine. You deserve better, Caleb, he said quietly as the credits rolled. Someone who sees you, really sees you. His words hung in the air, heavy with something I couldn't name. I brushed it off, blaming the root beer for the warmth in my cheeks. But Noah's words stuck with me. I started noticing the little things: how he'd bring me coffee at the bookstore when I was working late, how he'd text me dumb memes to make me smile, How he never once judged me for loving someone who didn't love me back. Noah was my constant. The one person who'd never left. Even when I'd taken him for granted. A month later, Ethan's face was everywhere: billboards, magazines, even the local theater's marquee advertising his latest film. Our town loved to claim him, their golden boy. But to me, he was a ghost. I avoided the theater, but the town's pride in him was inescapable. People would ask, "You still talk to Ethan?" And I'd force a smile, muttering something vague. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I drove to the lake, the place where Ethan and I used to sneak off to talk about our future. The water was still, reflecting the stars like a mirror. I sat on the shore, clutching my phone, tempted to call him, to beg for answers. Why wasn't I enough? What had I done wrong? Before I could spiral further, headlights cut through the darkness. Noah's beat-up truck pulled up, and he climbed out, his boots crunching on the gravel. "Figured you'd be here," he said, sitting beside me. He didn't ask why I was out here alone or lecture me about moving on. He just handed me a thermos of hot chocolate and sat in silence, letting the night speak for us. I don't know how to let him go, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. Noah turned to me, his expression soft but resolute. "You don't have to let him go all at once," he said. "Just let yourself feel something else too. Something new." His hand brushed mine, just for a moment, and my heart stuttered. I pulled back, confused, the weight of his words settling over me like a storm cloud. What was I feeling? Grief for Ethan? Or something else entirely, something that had been there all along, waiting for me to see it? The lake became our refuge. Noah and I started meeting there most nights, sometimes talking, sometimes just sitting in silence. The water had a way of calming the chaos in my head, and Noah had a way of making me feel like I wasn't alone in it. He'd bring his guitar sometimes, strumming soft melodies that blended with the crickets. And I'd listen, letting the music fill the spaces Ethan had left empty. One night, as the moon hung low over the water, Noah played a song he'd routine, a quiet, haunting tune about unrequited love. The lyrics cut deep, speaking of longing for someone who didn't see you, of staying anyway. When he finished, his eyes met mine, and I saw something raw, something vulnerable. "That was beautiful," I said, my voice thick. "Who's it about?" He hesitated, his fingers still on the strings. "Someone who doesn't know," he said finally, looking away. My stomach twisted. I wanted to ask more, but fear stopped me. What if I was reading too much into it? What if I was just desperate for something to hold on to? Instead, I changed the subject. "You ever think about leaving this place, Noah? Seeing the world?" He shrugged, his smile bittersweet. "Thought about it. But this town's home. You're here." His words were casual, but they hit like a punch. I didn't know how to respond, so I just nodded, staring at the water to avoid his gaze. The air between us felt charged, like a storm about to break. Back in town, Ethan's shadow loomed larger. His movie was a hit, and the local paper ran a front-page story about him. I couldn't escape the reminders: his face on posters, his name on everyone's lips. At the bookstore, a customer asked me to order Ethan's biography, and I nearly dropped the phone. "You knew him, right?" she said, oblivious to the knife she was twisting. Must be wild, seeing him all famous now. I mumbled something and excused myself to the back, where I could breathe. Noah found me there, sitting on a crate, my head in my hands. "You don't have to keep doing this to yourself," he said, crouching in front of me. "He's not your story anymore, Caleb." "Then who is?" I snapped, frustration spilling over. "I don't even know who I am without him." Noah's face softened, and he reached out, his hand hovering before settling on my knee. "You're Caleb, the guy who loves cheesy sci-fi books, who sings off-key in the shower, who makes the best pancakes in Ohio. You're enough, just as you are." His voice was steady, unwavering, and for the first time, I wondered if he was right. That night, I didn't dream of Ethan. I dreamed of Noah's song, his fingers on the guitar, his eyes searching mine. When I woke, my heart was racing, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was shifting inside me. The town's annual fall festival was approaching, and Noah convinced me to help him run a booth for the animal shelter where he volunteered. "It'll be fun," he promised, his enthusiasm infectious. I agreed, mostly to distract myself from the Ethan-shaped hole in my life. The festival was a whirlwind of lights, laughter, and the smell of caramel apples. Noah and I handed out flyers, played with puppies, and joked with passers-by. For the first time in months, I felt light, alive. Noah's laugh was a melody I hadn't realized I'd been missing, and the way he looked at me like I was the only person in the crowd made my chest ache in a new way. As the night wound down, we sat on a hay bale, sharing a bag of kettle corn. The stars were bright above us, and the air was crisp with possibility. "You're different tonight," Noah said, his voice soft. "Happier." I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw the boy who'd been my shadow since we were kids, the one who'd stayed through every heartbreak, every doubt. "You make it easy," I said, the words slipping out before I could stop them. His eyes widened, and for a moment, neither of us moved. Then he smiled, a slow, tentative smile that made my heart stutter. "Good," he said. "I want to keep doing that." His hand brushed mine, and this time, I didn't pull away. The festival marked a turning point. I started seeking Noah out, not just as a refuge, but because I craved his presence. We'd meet at the lake, the diner, or his tiny apartment, where he'd cook terrible spaghetti and we'd laugh until our sides hurt. With Noah, I wasn't Caleb who loved Ethan. I was just Caleb, and that felt like enough. But Ethan wasn't done haunting me. One afternoon, while I was shelving books, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Hey, it's Ethan. In town for a day. Can we talk?" My heart stopped. He was here, in Ohio, after months of silence. Part of me wanted to delete the message, to protect the fragile peace I'd found with Noah. But another part, the part still tethered to Ethan's memory, needed closure. I agreed to meet him at the lake, the place that had once been ours. When I told Noah, his face tightened, but he nodded. "Do what you need to, Caleb. Just don't let him hurt you again." His words lingered as I drove to the lake, my stomach in knots. Ethan was waiting by the water, as beautiful as ever in a tailored jacket, his hair perfectly tousled. But his eyes were different, tired, maybe even guilty. Caleb, he said, his voice soft. I missed you. I wanted to scream, to demand why he'd left me with nothing but a letter. Instead, I stood there, silent, as he apologized. He talked about the pressure of fame, the loneliness, how he hadn't meant to hurt me. I thought I was doing you a favor, he said, letting you go so you could have a normal life. Normal? I laughed, bitter. You broke me. Ethan, you don't get to decide what I need. He reached for me, but I stepped back, my heart pounding. For the first time, I saw him clearly not as the boy I'd loved, but as someone who'd chosen himself over us. I left him there, his silhouette fading against the lake. When I got to Noah's apartment, I didn't have to explain. He opened the door, saw my face, and pulled me into a hug. I buried my face in his shoulder, breathing in the scent of pine and flannel, and let myself cry not for Ethan, but for the part of me I'd finally let go. Noah and I grew closer, our friendship blurring into something more. It wasn't loud or dramatic like my love for Ethan had been. It was quiet, steady, like a river carving its way through stone. We'd hold hands at the lake, our fingers intertwined, and I'd catch myself smiling for no reason. But I was scared. What if I was just using Noah to fill the void Ethan left? What if I hurt him? One night, as we sat on his couch, I voiced my fears. Noah, I don't want to mess this up. You're too important. He looked at me, his eyes steady. You're not going to lose me. Caleb, he said. I've been here my whole life, waiting for you to see me. I'm not going anywhere. His words were a lifeline, and when he leaned in, his lips brushing mine, I didn't pull away. The kiss was soft, tentative, but it felt like coming home. Kissing Noah was like discovering a part of myself I'd never known. It wasn't just the warmth of his lips or the way his hands cupped my facet was the certainty, the quiet strength that made me feel safe. But even as I leaned into this new thing between us, doubt lingered. Could I trust my heart after it had led me so wrong with Ethan? Noah sensed it. He never pushed, never demanded more than I could give. Instead, he showed up day after day, with coffee, with laughter, with patience. We'd walk through town, ignoring the curious glances from neighbors who'd known us since we were kids. In a place like ours, two guys holding hands wasn't invisible, but Noah's confidence made it feel like we could take on the world. One evening, we went to the drive-in theater, a relic from the 50s that still drew crowds. We parked Noah's truck, the bed lined with blankets, and watched Back to the Future under a blanket of stars. Halfway through, he pulled me close, his arm around my shoulders. "This okay?" he whispered. I nodded, my heart full. For the first time, I wasn't comparing him to Ethan. I was just with him. But small towns have long memories. At the bookstore, gossip started swirling. Heard Ethan was back. A regular said, eyeing me, "You two patch things up." I shook my head, but the questions kept coming, each one a reminder that Ethan's shadow still loomed. When a tabloid ran a story about Ethan's hometown heartbreak, speculating about our breakup, I wanted to disappear. Noah found me at the lake that night, staring at the water. "People are talking," I said, my voice tight. "They think I'm just waiting for Ethan to come back." Noah sat beside me, his shoulder brushing mine, Let them talk, he said. They don't know you. They don't know us. He took my hand, his grip firm. You're not his anymore, Caleb. You're yours. And maybe a little mine. His smile was shy, and I laughed, the sound surprising me. As winter approached, Noah and I settled into a rhythm. We'd spend evenings at his place, cooking dinner or watching old movies. He'd tease me about my terrible taste in rom-coms, and I'd mock his obsession with folk music. It was easy, natural, but I still held back. I'd loved Ethan so fiercely, and it had burned me. Could I love Noah without losing myself again? One night, during a snowstorm, we got stuck at my apartment. The power went out, and we lit candles, huddling under blankets. Noah told me stories about his childhood, how he'd always felt different, how he'd known he was gay since middle school, but never told anyone. Not even me. I was scared, he admitted. Scared you'd see me differently. Why didn't you tell me? I asked, my heart aching for the boy who'd carried that alone. He shrugged. You were always looking at Ethan. I didn't think I stood a chance. His honesty broke something in me. I reached for him, pulling him close, and we kissed, the candles flickering around us. This time, there was no hesitation, no doubt. Just us. Winter wrapped our town in quiet. But inside me, a storm was brewing. Noah and I were building something real. But Ethan's ghost refused to fade. His movie was nominated for awards, and every newsstand screamed his name. I tried to ignore it, but the reminders were relentless commercials, interviews, even a mural of him painted on the side of the hardware store. One day, a package arrived at the bookstore. Inside was a signed poster of Ethan's movie, addressed to me, with a note, "Thought you'd like this. I'm proud of you, Caleb." I stared at it, torn between anger and longing. Why was he doing this now? Was he trying to pull me back? I showed Noah the poster that night, expecting him to be upset. Instead, he studied it, then set it aside. He's trying to keep a piece of you, he said quietly. But you don't owe him anything. His calm certainty grounded me. But I couldn't shake the feeling that Ethan's return, however small, was a test. I decided to confront it. I called Ethan, my hands shaking as the phone rang. When he answered, his voice was warm, familiar, but it didn't pull me under like it used to. "I got your package," I said. "Why'd you send it?" "I wanted you to know I'm thinking of you," he said. "I messed up, Caleb. I want to make it right." His words were everything I'd once wanted to hear, but now they felt hollow. I told him I was happy, that I'd moved on. When I hung up, I felt lighter, like I'd finally cut a thread that had been strangling me. Noah was waiting when I got home. I told him everything, and he listened, his hand resting on mine. "I'm proud of you," he said, and those words meant more than Ethan's ever could. Our relationship deepened, but the town wasn't always kind. We'd get stares at the grocery store, whispers at the diner. One night, someone spray-painted a slur on Noah's truck. He cleaned it off without a word, but I saw the hurt in his eyes. "This is why I never told anyone," he said, his voice low. "I didn't want to be their target. I wanted to fix it, to protect him, but all I could do was be there." We started spending more time at the lake, away from prying eyes. One night, under a blanket of stars, I told him I loved him. The words slipped out, raw and true, and his smile lit up the darkness. "I've loved you for years," he said, and we kissed, the world fading away. Spring brought change. Noah got a job offer in Columbus, working for a nonprofit that helped LGBTQ youth. It was his dream, but it meant leaving our town and me. "I want you to come with me," he said one night, his voice tentative. "We could start fresh, together." The idea terrified me. I'd never lived anywhere but here. Never imagined leaving. But the thought of losing Noah was worse. I promised to think about it. But doubt gnawed at me. What if I wasn't ready? What if I failed him? Meanwhile, Ethan's star kept rising. He won an award, and his acceptance speech mentioned a hometown love that broke his heart. The town buzzed with speculation, and I felt exposed all over again. Noah brushed it off, but I could see the strain in his eyes. He was fighting for us, but I wasn't sure I was fighting hard enough. One night, we argued our first real fight. "I need to know you're in this, Caleb," he said, his voice breaking. "I can't keep wondering if you're still holding on to him." I wanted to reassure him, but the words wouldn't come. He left, and I sat alone, hating myself for letting fear win. The next day, I found Noah at the lake, his guitar silent in his lap. "I'm sorry," I said, sitting beside him. "I'm scared, but I want Thesis. I'll go with you to Columbus." His eyes searched mine, and then he smiled, pulling me into a hug. We made plans, dreaming of a life where we could be ourselves, free from the town's judgment. But Ethan wasn't done. He showed up at my apartment unannounced, his presence like a storm cloud. "I'm leaving Hollywood," he said. "I want you back, Caleb. We can make it work." His words were desperate, but they didn't move me. I saw him for what he was, a dream I'd outgrown. "No," I said, my voice steady. "I'm happy, Ethan. Really happy." He left, and I felt a weight lift. I was done living in his shadow. Noah and I started planning our move to Columbus. We found a small apartment online, and the idea of a fresh start felt like a lifeline. But leaving wasn't easy. My parents were supportive but sad, and the bookstore threw me a going-away party that left me in tears. This town had shaped me, for better or worse, and saying goodbye hurt. Noah was my anchor. He'd hold my hand as we packed boxes, his quiet strength keeping me steady. One night, as we sorted through old photos, I found one of us as kids grinning, covered in mud from playing by the lake. "We've come a long way," Noah said, his voice soft. I nodded, realizing how much he'd always meant to me. The town's reaction wasn't all kind. Some neighbors stopped talking to us, and the diner refused to serve us one night. But others surprised me. An old teacher sent a card, wishing us well. The bookstore owner gave us a set of classic novels as a housewarming gift. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough. As our moving day approached, I felt a mix of excitement and fear. What if Columbus wasn't what we hoped? What if we couldn't make it work? Noah sensed my anxiety and took me to the lake one last time. "We're going to be okay," he said, his hand in mine. "Together, we can do anything." I believed him. For the first time, I wasn't looking back at Ethan or forward with fear. I was here, with Noah. And that was enough. Columbus was a whirlwind. Our apartment was small, but ours, filled with secondhand furniture and the warmth of new beginnings. Noah started his job, coming home with stories of the kids he was helping, his eyes bright with purpose. I found work at a community library, surrounded by books and people who didn't know my past. We built a life together, lazy Sundays cooking breakfast, late-night walks through the city, moments of quiet joy that felt like home. The town's judgment was a distant memory, replaced by a community that accepted us. We weren't perfect. There were arguments, doubts, days when the world felt heavy, but we faced it together. One evening, as we sat on our tiny balcony, Noah pulled out his guitar and played the song he'd written at the lake. The lyrics were different now, filled with hope, love, and the promise of tomorrow. "This is for you," he said, his voice soft. I leaned against him, my heart full. Ethan faded into the background. A chapter closed. I didn't need his light anymore. I had Noah, who'd seen me at my worst and loved me anyway. Our love wasn't a wild fight, it was a hearth, warm and steady, built to last. As the city lights twinkled below, I realized the wreckage Ethan left had led me here, to a love I'd never expected but always needed. Noah was my home, my future, and I was finally ready to write our story together.